All right, Rick Bozich, we've seen Louisville lose tonight 31-7 at Syracuse. I don't have to tell you that losing by double digits at Syracuse is not a good thing for a Louisville football coach. All that's left for us to do, I don't even care about stats or who did what. I think really the thing to do right now is survey the damage. Just how bad was this?
Very bad. Very, very bad. They beat Syracuse combined margin 71-3 the last 2 years. If you would have told me before the game it was a 31-7 score, I would have said there was an 80 or 85% chance it was Louisville winning 31-7. Very alarming on defense. A lot of missed tackles, arm tackling. Scott Satterfield called it shoulder tackling. They let Syracuse dominate the tempo and dominate both lines of scrimmages, penalties, lack of it looked like a team that really wasn't ready for the season to start. I mean, they weren't sharp.
That's the inexplicable part of it, is that, all we heard was about how they were hungry and they wanted to come out and prove themselves, and they were improved. And we saw the transfer portal additions, and what we got was a team that was flatter than Syracuse coming out, that could not match Syracuse's emotions, did not match Syracuse physically, could not tackle, lacked any kind of there was one creative play where we saw a little wide receiver pass that yielded a big play, but really didn't do much different on defense. I think at one point the commentators, Hasselbeck, I believe, for the ACC network said they've changed coordinators, but this is still Scott Satterfield's offense. I don't know if that's a good thing at this point, because there was not a lot of creativity out there.
It wasn't a lot of creativity. There wasn't a lot of grit either. At some point when you're getting beat like that, and Scott Satterfield is a guy who's shown that he likes to run the ball. You got to be able to effectively impose your will upon the other team, and they never were able to do that on offense. I mean, they weren't. And then Malik Cunningham, what was it, 2 picks that he threw? I think it was 2. That's reverting back to the way he played in 2020. He cleaned that up last year. And when you fall behind and then you start playing, it was like they were down by 14 or whatever it was, and they're trying to get it all back in one or two plays, and just all the things you see a team do when they're just not they just weren't ready for the season to begin. The tackling was the most alarming thing to me.
Yeah,
it was bad tackling.
Yeah, you tweet as we do during the course of a game, and some do better than others, and some resonate probably better than others. But the one I had with probably 300 shares was just the observation that since Charlie Strong left, the ability to tackle has declined a little bit more every year. And the only thing people argued with me about that was the word a little bit. But tackling was not good in this game. And, Scott Satterfield made mention of it after the game, as he should have. But they don't have a whole lot of time to clean that up, because they're right back at it and playing on a Friday night at Central Florida.
Well, what it reminds me of, Eric, is let's remember just a year ago when they played Ole Miss in the first game, it was the same kind of scenario. And Ole Miss, a better team, playing in a neutral side, obviously down in Georgia, but they looked flat and uninspired and unengaged in that game. So it's 2 years in a row that they've really deflated the fan base in the opening game of the season. And as you mentioned, they go to Central Florida on Friday. We've said the stat 100 times. Central Florida's 30-2. In its last 32 home games. Central Florida doesn't have to travel. They have 2 extra days to prepare because they played Thursday night. Louisville's going to be a sizable underdog in this game, and they need to win, because if they come back home against Florida State for the home opener 0-2 and they don't play well in that game, it's going to be ugly at Cardinal Stadium.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's a distinct possibility at this point. And
yes, it is.
And the thing is, they built some momentum. They built momentum with recruiting, which, you hope recruits weren't watching that game if you're Scott Satterfield. But, they built momentum and they lost it all tonight, I think. I don't think there's any question that fans are back off the bus and now have to be recruited back onto it. And that's going to be tough to do at a place that's hard to win at Central Florida. You could have a dismal situation coming back. The reason this game was so important was to get players engaged and get their heads in the game right away. This has been a program that really, despite its struggles under Satterfield, hasn't quit, but it just didn't look like it had any kind of fight about it tonight, and that's concerning.
Yeah, it wasn't that they quit; it was they never started. They didn't get the first game of the year. You want to see a team, come out with energy and enthusiasm, and the things I look at is people holding their blocks. And Syracuse, I know, had 20 penalties, 19 penalties, a ridiculous amount of penalties, giving Louisville a great chance to take advantage of that. But Louisville just wasn't sharp. They got in the red zone a couple times and couldn't punch it in. It just was a very uninspiring performance by Louisville. And when you're in year 4, people don't really want to hear that. They don't want to accept that.
Yeah. Does he bounce back from this? I mean, this is really tough. It's that serious that wonder how they get back from this. I mean, you got to win at Central Florida, but even that, I don't know. Given what they've done to Syracuse the last 3 times they played and what happened tonight, I don't know if just beating Central Florida is enough at this point.
Yeah, they probably have to win the next 3. They play 3 Florida schools in a row. South Florida got obliterated today. Florida State plays on Sunday against LSU, so we'll be watching that game to see how good they are. I mean, but Florida State is a team, I think they beat Florida State last year, right? So, yeah. I mean, I hate to overreact because it is a 12-game season, and last year after they lost to Ole Miss, they improved a little bit after that. But it's alarming. It's alarming to get beat that badly by Syracuse up there, where the game was. I felt like emotionally the game was over at halftime.
Yeah. I felt like it was over really after Louisville went down to the 4-yard line and couldn't punch it in 4 plays from the 4-yard line. And after that, I didn't see a whole lot happening. I don't want to completely be gloom and doom. We will look. I mean, you have to have a bright spot somewhere. I thought Tyon Evans from Tennessee, who we both talked about in the preseason as being the real deal. I think he ran for 98 yards. I don't have the stats in front of me, and I apologize. We like to put the stats up while we're talking. The Syracuse stat crew software stopped after 3 quarters, a lot like Louisville's offense. Actually, Louisville's offense stopped after the first quarter. They did not score over the last 3 quarters of this game, which is hard to believe. And Malik Cunningham, who'd had a touchdown in 30 straight games running or passing, did not have one in this game, and so that streak is over.
Yeah, Evans ran 13 times for 89 yards. He had a long run of 36. And also give props to Hudson, the receiver. He had 10 catches for 102 yards. So the 2 newcomers were really good. But after Hudson, nobody else had more than 2 catches. So, Marshawn Ford only got 2 balls for 12 yards. Not what you were expecting from this team at all. Malik Cunningham, completion percentage fine, 16 for 22, but only for 152 yards.
Yeah.
So really, that's not a great yards per catch thing, and no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. For a guy who is now in his 4th year as a starter and was the best running back in the country last year, he only ran running quarterback in the country last year. He had 13 carries for 34 yards. Not a good game for Malik Cunningham.
Well, yeah, in a matchup of 2 teams who badly wanted to turn the tables, Syracuse clearly did that in the offseason. They went to Virginia. They got coordinators. They got coaches. Yes. They brought an infusion of talent. They got a quarterback, and they turned the tables. And I don't know. I think it's fair to say that Louisville still has not turned them, and that's going to be a high cause for concern, to say.
I'll say this:
put it in the mildest terms.
You talk about public opinion. I can only go by friends of mine who are Louisville fans, and I was getting constant text messages and emails from 3 different Louisville fans who are highly annoyed. Same old Satterfield, and what's going to happen next, and how are they going to work their way out of this? So, in addition to being, I think what we're trying to say is, in addition to being a football problem, it's a public relations problem, because we all know what the crowds were like last year. And if they lose to Central Florida and they come home against Florida State, as I've already said once, and they're going to have a hard time getting people to buy in and get excited out there. And we've seen in the past that the fans they checked out under Cragthorpe. We've seen what that looks like. They checked out on Bobby. I mean, right?
Right, absolutely. And it was a double-digit loss at Syracuse that did Bobby in, and I don't think Satterfield's demise is that quick. But
no,
look, he's going to have to work his way back in because there's no question that this loss did some damage, and the manner of the loss did some damage.
And if Jeff Brom would have beat Penn State Thursday night, we know what the conversation would be Monday morning.
So we're going to see what it is now. It's not going to be any too pleasant, probably around the city of Louisville for a while about this particular team going on. So we'll certainly have more of it. Catch us. I've got a column up already at WDRB.com. We'll have more on Sunday, and you and I'm sure will be talking about this all week long. So thanks for staying up late. It's midnight Eastern, a little after. So we were just in town to watch Western Kentucky. So here we go. We will not be back doing one of these for Western Kentucky. I can assure you of that. So
I got home at 3:17 yesterday, so this is early.
This is later than our bedtimes, but thanks for staying up with us, and thanks for watching, everybody.